WOCA, Ocala. Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala.
All right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Friday morning. It's getting close to Christmas, and that's when some of these beautiful, beautiful stories make their way to our desks in our programs and in our homes, and they usually are short, beautiful stories. Isn't it amazing? And there's only a few people who've actually been able to pull this off, and I don't know, they must be touched by God in a special way. Jason F. Wright is on the phone. He is one of those few people who can write those kinds of stories. He's a New York Times bestselling author. 10 years ago, The James Miracle was released, according to my notes, and the 10th anniversary edition of the book is now out, and it is as beautiful as ever. You probably know Jason Wright. He's the author of, obviously, The James Miracle, the Christmas Jars, the Wednesday Letters, and he's been kind enough to allow us to chat with him today. Good morning, Jason Wright. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for sharing the air with me.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, thank you for coming on the air. I've got a headphone issue today, so you were there. I just couldn't hear you. Where are you right now? Where are you calling from? Or where are we calling?
I am sitting in a building built in the late 1800s on Main Street in the little town of Woodstock, Virginia, which is in the heart of the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia.
Does the word Woodstock just conjure up a good feeling? I don't mean because it reminds me of the music festival of the 60s. Just the word Woodstock just sounds like a nice name, doesn't
it? Yeah, and we've got flags. The town hangs flags around town that say the other Woodstock, just to make sure folks know this is not where people split down the hill in their undies.
No, that's funny. Does it surprise you when you touch so many people with your writing? Does that surprise you, and does it overwhelm you at all?
Oh, it absolutely does. It's something that I just can't. When you grow up in the third grade, the first time I said to myself, I took one of my sister's books and I took a Sharpie to it and I put my name on the front of one of her library books because I wanted to see what it would look like to see my name on the front of a book. And,
that's cool.
By the way, if there are any kids listening, that's a really bad idea. Mom and Dad weren't thrilled with that, nor was my sister. But this is what I knew I wanted to do, and it took me a while to eventually get back to it. But yes, the fact that I just before we came on air, I was downloading my email from overnight through my website. There's an email from a woman in Germany who owns a little bookshop in a little village in Germany, and she sells Christmas jars in German. She says, buy the box every year. And she just wanted to let me know that, in case you ever wonder, there are people in Germany reading your books and being touched by some of the holiday messages. So, honestly, it's incredibly humbling. It's really hard to articulate how grateful I am.
So, since you took us back to the Sharpie on the library book or the school book, take us back to the first positive response you got from a publisher. The first time you got feedback that made you think, wow, maybe I'm finally going to make it happen. When did that happen for you?
That is a great question. So I'll tell you first, one of the negative bits of feedback I got was the first. Well, I got 20 initial rejection letters when I started shopping my first book, and some of them were form letters, and everyone who's listening right now who's tried to write or is writing or has dreams of one day writing a book, that you get a lot of no's. It's just the way it works, and you probably know some of the stories of J.K. Rowling and John Grisham and
right.
Rejection after rejection. And I went through that, and I got one that said from a very reputable agent in New York who said, I really like this concept. I just wish someone else had written it.
Yeah. Why? Wow! That would be insulting. What was that supposed to mean?
Well, at least it was honest, right? At least it wasn't a form letter. So I was I was hungry for a little bit of, a positive reaction, and it came in an email that I got on my phone when I returned from an overseas trip, and I was sitting on the tarmac at Dulles International Airport in the Northern Virginia suburbs there, and I turned my phone on, and I've been flying for 24 hours, so I had really been disconnected from the world, and when I finally sorted through this mail, I had an email from a publisher who said, don't know if you have an agent yet or not, don't care, we want to do something with this book, and we want to do it quickly, and that was...
okay. And the manuscript that publisher was referring to was the same one that the other lady insulted you over.
Absolutely. Isn't that great how that works?
Well, good. I'm glad, because she did. That was rude to tell you that. That's almost like saying, I like the idea, but you're not good enough, so or you're not famous enough or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. I'm glad. So I'm glad somebody came through for you, and so that must have got you ecstatic. So you were on the airplane when you read that?
Yeah, so I was sitting, that time when you hit the ground and they say you can turn your stuff back on.
Yeah.
And so, I wanted to pull the exit door on the side of the plane so I could get out quicker and make a phone call and, kind of see what we could do. And that was exciting, and that was the beginning of, without that moment on a tarmac in Dulles, we're not on the air right now, right? Because that's the beginning of this whole journey that leads me into this career. But more important than that is when I now hear from people who spend their hard-earned money to go out to a bookstore or to go online and to download a book and to have it touch them in a significant way, to have it awaken something in them, memories from their own life, to read about. And my stuff is all fiction, but I try to, it's what we call contemporary fiction, so we hope people read it and go, that could be my life, that could be my neighbor, that could happen in my town. Hopefully that inspires.
Well, this is very evident in the James Miracle, though, because you're talking about family, you're talking about foundation and things that can rip them apart.
Yeah, and this is a book that I wrote as a message to my wife more than anything. This actually was my. People often refer to Christmas Shares as being my first book, but The James Miracle is actually the first thing that I ever had published. And I wanted to communicate to my wife kind of what I was feeling and thinking during the holidays of 2004. And I'd never written anything this long. I had written some poetry and short stories, and I grew up wanting to do this, but I'd never had the patience and the discipline to sit and actually write a full length, a couple hundred pages, and so that was this. And I, for those that might be interested in picking the book up, it's really about the choices we make when our families are stretched, and they're stretched and pulled, and they become thin, and we have to ask ourselves, are we ready to give up, or are we ready to come back together again and find some strength and reprioritize our lives a bit?
Oh, I love that.
This couple goes through a tragic accident with a child, their only child. While this child is in the hospital, who may or may not live, this couple is left now basically childless again, right, at home, wondering, well, what do we have? What kind of marriage do we have, and what kind of family do we want to have if and when he wakes up? And then the dad loses his job, and everything that can go wrong in life does. And the husband in particular really has to evaluate where his priorities have been and where they need to be.
But was that a reflection? But before I ask you my question, which is, was that a reflection of your life at the time? So just hold on to the question. But when you said something about poetry, that's exactly what I think of with your writing. Your poets have a way of writing pictures with a few words. It's a weird thing. You get a picture without a whole lot of words, and you've been able to do that in prose. So it's not a surprise to me that I hear you say your roots are in poetry. Actually. But I'm not a big poetry fan, but I understand how poetry is. I like it, but I like prose better, if that makes sense. Although I like poetry when it shows up in a song. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm fascinated by that observation because I have never put that together myself, but gosh, I've done a lot of interviews. I've never had anyone connect those dots. I think you might be right. I really, I used poetry to get through. My father died when I was in high school, and I didn't know I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to grieve my way through it. My mom was kind of struggling as well. I was the only child still at home. I was the youngest. And so I had a great creative writing teacher who sat me down and said, you like to write, you're feeling some things, you don't quite know how to express them, this is it. Here's a journal, start writing. And so I wrote a lot of bad poetry for a couple of years after my father died. But I learned to appreciate exactly what you said, that there's beauty in a 400, 500, 600-page novel, and I get that. But sometimes you can paint a pretty interesting and compelling and emotionally driven picture in just a few words, and perhaps you're right. Perhaps the reason I do gravitate towards some shorter novels, The James Miracle is what we'd call a one-sitting book. A lot of folks will, sit for an hour and a half in an afternoon and
well,
read right through.
there's a richness to it, and the richness, it's almost like it's got more color or something, or more imagery or something. Or it's almost like you know what it's like? It's like taking a children's book. Not that it's written like a children's book, but you know how children's book, half of the story is being told with the picture, except in your case, the words make those pictures, and then of course the words are the words. So, that is poetry when you describe it that way.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation, and I'm actually I'm honored you would make it and compare my work in that way. I think you're right, and that's the kind of writing I like. I write what I like to read. I tend to gravitate towards Mitch Albom kinds of books that are short, kind of powerful, get in, get out, and so that's kind of where my career has taken me. And I may eventually work into some other things, and some of my novels have been a little bit longer, but I respect my readers' time and money a great deal, and I want to know that I can give them an experience that once they open the cover and they read that first page or two, they're not going to want to put down.
Jason F. Wright is our guest. Jason, we need to take a little break. The book that we're talking about is The James Miracle, but of course the Christmas Jars is probably going to come up later, the Wednesday Letters also, and we'll be right back with Jason. By the way, the phone lines are open if you want to call. I know you've got a lot of fans right here in this listening audience, so we'll be right back. If you want to call, you are welcome to do that. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. A nice day today with sunshine and a few clouds, the high 63 to 67. Tonight will be clear and chilly with a low of 34 in the coldest inland spot to about 48 along the coast. Tomorrow partly sunny and mild, the high 65 to 69. And for Sunday, mostly sunny with a high of 66 to 70. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
This weather brought to you by Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association, FTBOA.
Did you know that thoroughbred horses annually contribute $1 billion to the Sunshine State's economy and employ over 12,000 people, more than even baseball spring training? To learn more about the horse capital of the world or to join the membership of the FTBOA, the Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association, please check out ftboa.com.
Hi, I'm Leah Caruso with Strive Rehabilitation, inviting you to join me Thursday at 11 a.m. for Health Matters. Ocala Health and Strive have teamed up to bring you the latest information on good health services available to you right here at home. This vital information will help you make informed decisions about your health. So don't forget to join me here at 11 a.m. Thursday. It's news you can use from Ocala Health, Strive, and your friends here at WOCA.
All right, 12 minutes now before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Jason Wright is on the phone. The James Miracle is his book. I wanted to talk to you real quickly about the tradition of the Christmas jars that you started. I mean, people have been doing this now ever since the book. When did the Christmas jar come out? Is that like 5 or 6 years? No, it's older than that, right?
Yeah, that's actually 9 years.
9 years.
We're in our 10th year of the book being out, but it came out 9 years ago.
And when did you start getting feedback from people that they were doing the Christmas jar idea?
Oh boy, that's another great question. I got an email, so I knew the book was. I mean, obviously the book was out. We had given a jar away. That the book came after our family experimented with the tradition of the Christmas jar. We didn't we didn't give a Christmas jar away to then later write a book. We were just looking for something in our home that might be a daily kind of year-round tradition that would get us thinking about the needs of other people and a way to maybe celebrate Christmas a little bit even when it's 110 in July. And so the Christmas jar was born, and we began to put our money in it every day, and Christmas Eve came and we gave it away, and we had such a remarkable, life-changing experience, particularly my kids, that I then said, well, let's fictionalize this whole thing and see if we can't get some other folks to kind of join in this tradition and see if we can't build something, kind of a grassroots kind of a thing. It's sort of what we always envisioned. So the book came out, and I just for a long time assumed, because I hadn't heard a whole lot, that people were reading the book and enjoying it, but that it wasn't necessarily leading to action. And then I started to get emails from people. I finally sat up, and it took me a little while, but I finally said, well, let me put a thing on the website that says, if you got a jar or you gave a jar, click here and tell us your story. And as soon as I put that up, I started hearing from people. And I mean, I sat at the first day I started to see these stories come in from people, all around the country that I didn't know. I've never met. This isn't my third cousin, twice removed. I just sat at my keyboard and in my office and just sobbed at some of these stories from people who had been on their knees looking for a miracle, and the next thing you know, they get a knock at the front door, and they go out, and there's a jar and a copy of the book. So that was Christmas of 2005.
Isn't that cool? I know the audience has probably heard me tell this story before, so forgive me for being redundant to your ears, but Jason may not have heard this story. Robin and I met the lady who played Ellie Mae Clampett from the Beverly Hillbillies in our generation, and her name is Donna Douglas. Do you remember that lady by chance? Donna Douglas? Okay.
I don't. I remember that show, not the...
Okay. Well, we met with her one time, and I'm not trying to name drop, but I'm just trying to give credit. She told us this story, and the way I remember it, she said it was a dream. I don't know if she was referring to her dream or somebody else's dream, but anyway, in the dream, she goes to hell, and everybody has a spoon, and they're sitting at a table, and the spoon is 3 feet long, and they can't hold the spoon from any other point on the spoon other than the end of the handle. And with a 3-foot-long spoon and those rules, you could never feed yourself. And so everybody was just going crazy because they couldn't eat. She went to heaven. Everybody was sitting at a table, exactly the same situation, had a 3-foot-long spoon. You could only hold it by the handle, but they were feeding each other. And that's the difference between heaven and hell. Those in heaven know how to give. Those in hell just simply don't. And that's what the Christmas jars is. It's about giving. It's about finding a way to take something that you have and giving it to somebody else.
Yeah, and it's a way to recognize that Christmas is not really a 24-hour holiday. It shouldn't be, but that is how a lot of us, certainly how I treated it for most of my life. It's about recognizing all year long that people have made sacrifices for you, and it's our turn to make sacrifices for others, and there's something magical about dropping your change in a glass jar and seeing it slowly accumulate. It's like the accumulation of these acts of kindness that we do for one another every day. And then, delivering a jar for those who may have done it, it's unforgettable. Get in a car, pick someone you know, pick someone at random, hand it to someone in a Walmart parking lot who looks like they're trying to figure out how to make it all work once they get inside.
Right.
There's so many ways to give a jar away. There's no right way or wrong way. It's kind of just your way. And once you do it once, if you're listening right now and you're wondering, well, is it too late? Are we too close to Christmas? Could I really get enough money in the jar? Find a mason jar, go to the bank, get some rolls of coins, continue adding to it for a few days with whatever change you might generate, and go give that thing away sometime between now and Christmas, and you will do it every year for the rest of your life.
That is a wonderful idea.
You write editorial articles on a variety of topics. Do you always manage to inspire your audience, and is there a moral at the end of each one?
Oh, well, I don't know if I managed to inspire. I think I inspire myself. Most of my columns are written because I find, these kind of blind spots in my own personality and my own character flaws I need to probably work on. So I tend to write a lot about kind of mistakes I've made in my own life and what I learned from them and how I hope to not repeat them again. hope that other folks kind of relate to that. But I hope folks enjoy them. I mean, they're very slice of life. Occasionally, I'll run across someone on an airplane, or I'll hear a story in the press that I think needs a little more attention, and so I'll write not about my life, but go in and write about someone who's overcoming cancer or a car accident or whatever, some kind of inspiring story. But often they are kind of focused on my life, and I hope people find them interesting. They can find them on my website at jasonfwright.com. Fox News runs some of what I write. The Deseret News and my local paper here in Virginia, the Northern Virginia Daily, also runs some of them. So it's hard work, I'll tell you. They're actually harder than the novels, because I got to punch out a new column every week, and they're always up behind it.
Yeah, and you have to come up with a punchline. You have a great way of ending stories, almost like it's a chill factor. People get tears, I'm sure. You have a way of doing that at the end. I'm guessing that's not the same with journalistic type writing.
No, I think your readers might find some like that. I've had some experiences that really changed me. That I have, mostly. I'll give you the 30-second example. A woman that had gone into a bookstore not far from me had said, or actually her husband went in and said, "My wife is ill. She would love to get a signed book. She would love to meet Jason, but she has cancer and she's not doing particularly well." And the store owner called me, and I just dragged my feet for about a week before I finally called back to try to arrange it. And by the time I called back, she'd passed away. And,
oh wow!
What do you do with that? When I got the call from the bookstore owner on the morning that I was finally going to get in my car and drive the half hour to go see this woman, I was sitting in front of my office, and the bookstore owner calls and says, you don't need to come. She passed away overnight. The husband just called. And I just sat in my car and just cried like a baby that I had missed this opportunity. And so I immediately ran inside my office, and I wrote a piece about it that then became my weekly column, and said, here's a lesson learned. May you learn a little bit from my pain.
And on a personal note, I love how you and your wife have incorporated the letters of your names into the names of your children.
Oh, look at that.
That's very clever.
Of your own there. Yes, we have, my name is Jason, of course. My wife is Cody, K-O-D-I, and then we have my oldest, her name is Oakley with an I, and then we have a J-D, J-A-D-I, and then two boys, Kason and Colson. And we, it's maybe it's a little cliche, but it's a nod to our parents, because this has gone on for a few generations, and so the kids are always having to spell their names, but they're keepers.
So this is kind of a dopey question, I guess, but what would you have done if the writing didn't happen for you? Would you be a preacher? What would you be?
That's interesting. Would I have been a preacher? I think I might have enjoyed that. I'm very, very active in my faith. That's a very important part of what I do. I think I love politics, and I worked in politics before I made the leap to write full time. So I ran for Congress actually many moons ago when I was in my 20s in Utah. So I probably would have ended up kind of going maybe down a political route. I love small business, and I'm kind of an entrepreneur at heart. And most writers today, especially with ebooks and just how competitive the world is, even in the arts, we have to be entrepreneurs as well. So I'm kind of an entrepreneurial guy. I might have set up a taco truck on the side of the road and sling tacos all day.
Oh no! See now, if you had entered politics, my first feeling about that is I would have loved it, because you would have been an honest man in office, regardless of whatever office it was. B, I would have hated it, because you would have been an honest man who eventually became corrupted in office. Although I don't know. I mean, maybe you would have been one of those who didn't get. And how did you do in the election?
Oh, I lost, and it was the greatest blessing of my life.
Probably,
and I have no regrets about running. I ran against a pretty powerful incumbent that had a lot of money, and I just felt like it was
wow.
He needed to be challenged.
Jason, thank you so much for being on with us this morning. We are absolutely out of time. I have a copy of the book, The James Miracle. If you call me, I'll give it to you. The rest of us have to go and buy it. Go online and buy it. What's a good website for you, Jason?
JasonFWright.com or Facebook, facebook.com/JFWBooks. If you just Google Jason Wright, I'll pop right up.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Jason. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM. The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Joe Chiro.
You just hear loud noises crashing and it's just real scary.
Wild weather in California, heavy rain and powerful winds damaging homes and businesses.
We heard just this big boom, crash, and it felt like an earthquake. And it was very oh my goodness, what was that?
She's in Willow Glen, a tree crashing through her roof, major power outages in the state. A partial government shutdown looms if the Senate fails to approve a $1 trillion spending bill narrowly passed by the House.
House Speaker John Boehner rallied Republicans to pass a bill last night averting a government shutdown for now.
It's a good bill, and I think it reflects the people's priorities.
Now it heads to the Senate where it faces vigorous debate.
Fox's Rachel Sutherland. And crude oil prices continue to fall, edging below $60 a barrel. It's the first time oil has been that low in 5 years. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Dentist office, may I help you?
Hi, I'd like to cancel my teeth whitening appointment.
May I ask why?
I found a teeth whitener that works in 5 minutes that I can do from home. It's called Power Swabs.
Hi, I'm John Greenhut, and if you want to whiten your teeth, 2 shades in 5 minutes and 6 shades